Hey everybody, we're back. Today we're in the Encyclopedia of the Ancient World, and we're going to be talking about Sumeria. Okay. At one point we talked about city-states, and just remember that a city-state was an independent city that acted as its own state or a country. Okay. It usually surrounded by walls and it had its own government and things. So in Sumeria, the Sumerian towns grew into big city-states, different ones, okay? So remember, each city, we're talking about the whole area of Sumeria, but each city was basically its own country, okay? So we had the city of Kish, Eridu, Nippur, and And Ur eventually became the largest of the cities. They all had their own governments. They started out as small local organizations and then grew into huge governments. Officials began to be appointed by powerful men without consultation. And eventually, these turned into kings. So then each city had its own kings. There was also religion throughout the area, okay? The heart of each city had a temple. These temples eventually were called ziggurats, and they started out as simple rectangular buildings built on a low platform. And then as years went by and different things happened, they would put a new temple on top of that one, and then a new temple on top of that one, and a new temple on top of that one. Eventually, they became to look like the step pyramids of Egypt that we've talked about. Also, each city, even though they worshiped multiple gods, each city had its own very specific god, the one for their own city, okay? And these temples were huge endeavors, okay? They not only had priests, but they employed a lot of other people. Around the temple, you had craftsmen that would sell things that you needed for your worship or for the temple or for your travels to whatever sacred shrine or place that you needed to go. Also had clerks that would record the different things, and so that you knew what you needed and how to get there. And they also had cleaners and lots of other different things that happened around these temples. One of the things that was found in the city of Ur was the royal tombs of Ur. Okay, the royal tombs of Ur are some of the most dazzling archaeological treasures ever discovered, and they were found in these royal tombs of the Sumerian city of Ur. The excavations were led by a man named Leonard Woolley. Excuse me, he's actually Sir Leonard Woolley. Okay, he was a British archaeologist. He led the excavation from 1922 to 1934, so about 12 years. He produced a detailed picture of life in one of the world's earliest civilizations. He found all these things, all these artifacts, and was able to put together a pretty comprehensive idea of what life in this city of Ur, thousands of years ago was. One of the things he found was a large cemetery. In that cemetery, there was 1,840 graves. 17 of these were built for kings, or what we call now, MVPs, people who are, famous people of the time, very important people of the time, advisors to the kings, different things like that. A couple of the kings was King Meskelamdug and King Akalamdug. However, one of the things that Sir Woolley found was that most of these graves, most of these sites had already been robbed. So there wasn't a lot of treasure per se that was there, just a lot of information. So some of his findings, though, as he worked in this area, was that multiple artists and craftsmen were in the city. Okay, lots of different luxurious trade was going on at this time as well. There was metals and precious stones that were being worked and traded and mined. There was lots of different food products and produce that was grown and traded. There was cloth and timber, all being traded amongst these people from this city. The other interesting, you might say, unique, kind of disturbing thing that he found in this city was he called it the Great Death Pit. And it was buried along the side of one of the kings, and it contained the skeletons of 74 different people. And these 74 different people were basically, dressed in their normal attire and different things, and it showed that there was a social hierarchy that occurred. And they all basically laid down in order of their hierarchy by rank before poisoning themselves. Definitely a little different, a little something strange, but it was part of their culture and their history. And as we see some of that in Egypt as well, where they were buried with some of their slaves or things. Sumeria, the biggest city, remember, is Ur, and hopefully you read the material. Thanks.